You're watching ZtX-52 TV.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in today. In front of me I got a Gravely ZtX-52 inch deck and an Ariens Ikon X52. Right away you'll notice a lot of similarities with these mowers. This is just going to be a walk around of both and some differences between the two. I know these are older models. The Ariens is an 18 and the Gravely is a 19. But these two are so close in year, around the same time. Now you will find newer models on the shelf that also share a lot of similarities. But if you're in the market for a Gravely or an Ariens or anything in general, a 52-inch deck, this will be a good video to watch so I can point out some goods and bads about the mowers. Right away, you will notice that the frames, when comparing these, the frames are identical along with the decks. The only thing that are going to be different are the nameplates on the front here, which just bolt on. They use the same tires, the same wheel, guess you'd call that a wheel hub, minus this here. It looks like these actually have, the Gravely's have a hex head that you can unbolt, versus these you might have to tap the cover off. But as far as changing out bearings, I think the Gravely is going to be easier just by the looks of it. Again, the decks are identical, so nothing different there. The seats are different. One's an Ariens and one's a Gravely. The hydros, I got underneath them. I don't know specifically which ones they are, interested, but I'm gonna say they are the exact same hydro. If you compare them, there's the two. Both of these are outfitted with the Kawasaki's. They're identical motors. They're the FR69 1V. And what I've found from forums is that everybody's always points towards the Kawasaki's. If you're going to have a choice between a Kawasaki, a Kohler, or a Briggs, everybody points to the Kawasaki, and the Kohler second. These mowers both came with the option of Kawasaki and Kohler. I'm not sure on Briggs though, as far as that goes, but I do know that they at least came with the Kawasaki's or the Kohlers. One thing I notice here, Bubble, you go ahead and tilt that seat up, is underneath the seats, right away I noticed between the two is the gas tanks. This gas tank sits underneath the seat, and it's only a little bit of space right here, versus the Gravely's gas tank. You'll look and you'll say, oh, there's not one. But really it's just all tucked up under here, and it also has the side display to let you know how much fuel is in your tank, which that can be hard to judge just by looking at the tank, but I can see a line right there, so I know that there's gas in it. That option might eventually change to where this would get cloudy and not even be usable, so I wouldn't say that's really a plus. But looking at the two tanks, I want to say the Ariens, if anything, might be a little bit bigger. You can see it goes to here on the Gravely, but what doesn't go on the Ariens is under here is the tank extends and deepens, and it also extends this way more versus on the Arien. That's why I'm believing that these two tanks are the same, they're just laid out differently. And I see these kind of tanks on a lot of zero-turn mowers, sealed, also the Hustlers, I believe. But these two mowers, I will point out, I was told that they don't have a serviceable filter on them, which I looked all over. But I did find out, a guy said that these, you can add oil to them. I'm not 100% on that yet because I haven't found the bolts or looked for the bolts, but online also it was saying that these hydros, you can add oil to them if you need to and drain the old oil, but I've yet to find out where that would be at. Okay guys, so the dealer was the one at Gravely that told me that there should be a bolt you can take out to add and let the fluid out, but after looking at both of these units, they are completely sealed. I did pull up some stuff online on how to change the ones with the filter, and it said to remove the filter or the vent, remove the vent plug first and then the filter. But I did find on these tractors that they have, here's the hose for it. Where did it go? Oh, right here. They have a overflow slash vent tube that comes out. It actually sits right on top on the other side of this, and you can follow it all the way up. And I believe that if you really wanted to change the fluid, you could do it from that vent port by sucking out, by taking off the nut and the port head and then sucking out the fluid via vacuum, or you might even, I would suggest maybe a vacuum with a straw. I've done that on similar stuff, but if you had to add it, you probably could take that off. It would just be extremely hard to get to. You would probably want to take the tire off at least. And I was trying to see how you could access it. Actually, right here, if you look in here, I think you could, if you really wanted to. You can see it right there, sitting on top of that hydro gear. It would take a hex head, but if you could get that off, you could definitely add fluid in there. And if you had a straw, you could suck out most of it. I just don't know what the best way to do that would be, because you got this plate here that kind of hangs you up, so you might have to drop it. So it would definitely be a job. It wouldn't be something that just anybody could do. So these are definitely sealed units. That's one thing you got to look at when you're buying these. Now, I will say that I had a Hustler mower that had similar sealed units, and when I sold it, it sounded just like these mowers. I mean, it wasn't extremely loud or anything, maybe a little louder, but I had put some hours, quite a few hours on it, and it didn't have an hour meter, so I couldn't tell you how many hours it was ran. But those sealed units can last up to 10 years with no issues. So it's one thing to look at when buying new. If you don't plan to keep it that long, it's not a huge deal. But over time, I want to say on the Hustler I had, there was 0 leaks on it. I could park it anywhere and no transaxle fluid would dump out. So I feel like the seals on these units are really good for that, and that you shouldn't have to add oil. But it is nice when you do have a reservoir for oil, just for that purpose, if it's leaking. That way you don't have to do a full rebuild or change out a unit, or if it's getting loud, you can service it. But that's one thing with these mowers that you'll find, is it doesn't have a way to service the transaxle unless you are MacGyver. So yeah, we went over the gas tanks. There was also something on this other mower I noticed. There's the drain plug there to drain the oil, and this one has a hose that comes around back. So you'll find little things that are different between these mowers and motors, like little things that the manufacturer did. It's got a hose that you can kind of tuck down. I might like that better, because you can run it down, versus this one you got to come up with your own hose just to get it out. So let's see what the tires are on this. Same tires, I think. They're 18 by 8.8, 18 by 8.5 by 8. They're Super Turf by Kenda, and that's going to be the same thing that's on here. These were actually the same thing that were on my Hustler 42-inch with a Honda motor. It was a smaller tractor, but yeah, I feel like these Kawasaki's push these mowers a lot better, faster. My Honda was a little underpowered. I honestly can't remember what horse it was. It's probably an 18 or around there, but these decks are probably about as big as you want to go on this frame, because these tires, just this, what I found with this mower setup is this tire worked good for my 42 inch. It didn't really get stuck, but once you get to this bigger deck, you're gonna find it's harder to work on the curves and angles of your yard without getting this thing hung up, because those tires are so low clearance and everything. I feel like the bigger zero turn commercials have bigger tires that'll get you out of more stuff, but these will just sit and spin on something slick if you're mowing in the rain. That's another reason why you want, if you're doing if you're doing commercial or residential yards, you definitely don't want to be doing this unless you're just starting out and mowing a few yards, because these mowers aren't made to run hours on end. They're just made for residential purposes. So yeah, this is good for, I believe I was reading online, these mowers are good for like up to 5 acres maybe. Might be pushing it at that point, but yeah, I'd say they're perfect for 2 to 3 acres if you're wanting to get it mowed fast. But yeah, if you guys have any opinions or comments, I'm learning on these, so drop it. Let me know what you think. If something I said doesn't sound right, call me out. But yeah, I just wanted to do a walk around for people that are interested between the two brands. As far as I can tell, is I would just see which one's at a better price point if you're going to buy brand new, because these are identical to me. They just have their own little personalities to them. Same frame, same deck, same wheels and tires. Just little differences, like especially with the bearings. One thing I don't like about these mowers, and I'll show you on these, is my Hustler mower had a deck lift on it like this, similar, but it had a manual lock, so once I pushed it up it would lock. On these you have to do it by hand and turn it, so if I want to go all the way up I gotta crank this thing to get it to lock, versus on the manuals, and probably some commercials are like this, when I pressed it down it instantly would go to where I wanted it. Like if I wanted it just up one click, it would go one click up with my foot instead of this little dial thing. I feel like these dials will be prone to junking out and be more work versus the manual. For that, I like the manuals better. For now, I'm actually keeping this mower. This one I'm just flipping. I ended up finding two good deals at once. So I actually bought the Gravely, then the Ariens. I was like, man, those are pretty much identical. And I thought, well, maybe I could do a YouTube video as well and see the differences. One thing on this they sold me on was they kept saying that it had a mulch kit. Well, this one's damaged, but the other ones are in good shape. They're just bolt on. I'll show you under here. These kits just bolt on, and the back's already factory like that, but the fronts, it encloses the fronts to the backs. Instead of having a blocker plate, that's their style of mulch kit. And I also have a chute for this one. It's brand new, they just never installed it. Oh yeah, the Gravely's got a little more storage if you're wanting to put some pocket parts. That was another thing. They have the same cup holder for the most part. That one's a little more shallow. So you're gonna find minimal differences between these two mowers. I would say if you're looking for a 40 or a 52, if you're looking for a 52 inch deck and you're trying to decide between a Gravely and an Ariens, I would pick whichever one is priced the best. That would be my personal opinion. And I'm gonna say you're gonna get 10 years if you treat it right out of the hydros at minimum, without having to do any major servicing. You're gonna have to put spindles and stuff like that on the deck, but also the Kawasaki motors, you can't go wrong with those. So yeah, thanks for tuning in. I hope this video helped you out, and yeah, watch the videos and you might notice some things that are similar and different just by me doing this walk around. So thanks for tuning in.